The Joel Fernandez Show is a talk show channeled spontaneously from source to edify and help raise the vibrations of truthers, starseeds, Christic alchemists, and others who have seen through this illusionary matrix into messianic consciousness by discussing hidden knowledge, higher dimensions, and manifesting so that we can shine our light for everyone to see and co-create the earth that we know we actually deserve to live in. Don't! I gotta go! I'm working on the show!
Here we go!
What's up, my peeps? Welcome to the Joel Fernandez Show. I'm your host, Joel Fernandez, and this is episode 42, and I'm just preparing some dinner here. Actually, you know what? I'm taking it really easy today. I made a mix of peas, rice, and potatoes in the Instant Pot. I'm going to be chopping some tomatoes and some red chard and a couple spices. I'm just going to mix them up and have a really light dinner because honestly, I'm just going through a little bit of a fast right now. And as you can see, I'm also growing a bit of this beard. I don't know if I should probably shave that pretty quick, but we're almost at a breakthrough and things are really accelerating. And guess what? No matter what the lamestream media is pushing down our throats, honestly, it's exactly opposite of whatever they're saying. So they're actually harping on fear, and a lot of people are actually buying into it. But you know what? With their track record, I don't trust them, and I trust Source because Source speaks directly to me, as we all have that same potential, and we just have to learn how to let go of putting other people up in places of authority and really tapping in with the authority of our own heart. And once we do that, we'll realize that, you know what? There's nothing to fear. There's absolutely nothing to fear. And whatever's happening right now is exposing the darkness. And really right now, the darkness is so scared. They're petrified. They're literally like, they know their time is up. They're doing everything they can to just manipulate whoever will be manipulated. And it's sad to say that there are a lot of people that still are. But you know what? We are already crossed this threshold in the causal realm. The decrees have gone out. The changes have been made. The strongholds have been torn down. And now we're just seeing them scramble for whatever they have left. And this is why we're seeing the exposure right now. This is why, like, those of us that are digging in and really, like, seeking a deeper understanding, all of a sudden it's like the veil has been pulled back. And all of a sudden we're thinking about things completely differently than we had been, you know, without any physical, tangible catalyst. Of course, like, the last few years have kind of pushed us into a deeper journey of life. But really, it's just like, you know, all of that veil has been pulled back. And now we're starting to see things on a much deeper level. Red chard. So yeah, I'm just going to chop a bit of this and just simple chard and tomatoes. And then I'll be probably sprinkling it with a bit of spice like some cumin, some turmeric. Those are my go-to spices. But honestly, like, right now with the fasting, honestly, I would just love to fast doing raw food. It's been so long since I've done raw food for extended periods of time. And it's partially because of the way just the produce is. Like, quality-wise here in Calgary, with the lockdown and all that stuff, it's not been what it has been. So I had to compromise a bit. But honestly, sticking with a whole foods, plant-based diet, like, my vibration is still as high as it ever has been. And the point with raw foods, I feel, is more of a cleansing diet. So yeah, there was a time when I had to purge all this stuff from my system. But you know what? Now it's just like downloads just keep coming and coming. And for me to keep up with those downloads, if at this time I attempted to switch to raw foods, I think, like, honestly, I might not even be able to keep up. But, like, the acceleration, like, you guys know, you who've been watching my channel, like, you know, just so much has just been unfolding in the last, well, since I started the channel, but just this last summer. It's like boom, boom, boom. Doors and veils and all this stuff is just being pulled back and open. And we're literally already in a new space. It's just like the rest of society, and even the rest of society. I don't even want to say that because there's two worlds being born right now. There's the world of manipulation and the manipulated, and those of us that are awake and shining our light. You know, this world is really facing a real wake-up call, and nothing's more glorious than actually watching it unfold in our own lives. So don't be discouraged. Honestly, it's literally the best time to be alive. Just be encouraged, just tap in, and if you tap into your own heart and really listen to what's being broadcast within you, you're going to feel the same way. You're going to know, like, there's nothing that can stop what's already started. And the only reason why it's taking so long to unfold and all these intricacies have to play out is because we're in actual warfare. And this is psychological warfare. This is literally, we're watching World War III unfold right before our eyes. And it's amazing because for those of us that are on the winning side, you know what? We've already won the war. We just have to see how it unfolds in the physical world. It's like in the Matrix when she said, you didn't come here to make the choice. You've come here to see why you've made the choice.
We're all here to do what we're all here to do. We've already made the choice. Now you have to understand it.
We've already chosen to wake up, and that's what's so great about this whole unfolding. But yeah, like honestly, like so much that the mainstream or lamestream is actually peddling, it just makes us fearful. And honestly, like I've tapped in and I've asked Source these questions like, this doesn't look so good. Why is this happening? You know, I could give examples about like what's going on with the weather and the skies and, you know, even the so-called medical stuff that's going around. All of this stuff seems detrimental. And even with what's going on in Australia, like it looks troubling, but of course that's controlled opposition and lamestream media showing us that aspect of it. And sources like, you know what, maybe these things are happening for a better purpose now that the evil has already been eliminated in certain sectors. You know, one example is that a lot of times we hear helicopters, and before we knew that these helicopters would just circle around and just cause like disturbance. But all of a sudden, after this summer, I'm looking at them and I'm really like troubled sometimes because, you know, of the vibrations and all the disturbance. Just in the middle of the night, sometimes we'll hear really loud copters just fly across. And I'm like, Source, like, what is going on here? And he said, did you ever stop to think that the bad guys have been eliminated or in the process of being eliminated, and these are actually the good guys? Like in military operations, no one tells their plans, right? But even Source, after I received that download, you know, I was wrestling with it. And I sat alone and I really got in tune. And the confirmation came from more than a couple places. You know, and that's just one example. Another example is also the weather patterns. Sometimes we see these cloud patterns that aren't natural, and I say, what's going on here? And sources like, hey, they've been doing things with the weather and the skies for so many years. What would it take for them to clean it up? And I'm like, well, it would take some kind of physical work at least to clean it up. And sources like, yeah, just trust the process. And honestly, since I started trusting the process, it's like I realized that I'm not feeling depressed and I'm not feeling like that body ache anymore. And you know, just those weird tensions in my muscles and even my nervous system. Sometimes I'd get weird twitches. All of that has really subsided. And I'm wondering, like, maybe they really are cleaning the air with some other technology that was hidden from us. And right after I acknowledge that, usually the day after that, the sky is like crystal clear, like bluer than blue without a cloud in sight. And today was an amazing day without a single cloud in the sky all day. Now that never happened because you always start to see, you know, one plane and then the streak behind that or something. But today it was just clear all day. So yeah, do not give up hope. Know that this is really happening. And we are literally going to cross something. And it might not be easy. There might be a bit more pressure. But guess what? That pressure is only creating that diamond that you are. So just trust the process and know that no matter how high they set themselves up as, Source is always above them. Divine justice is always above them. Yahweh, the aspect of Elohim that is literally the form of government of all things manifest, all creation, seed time and harvest, Well, that harvest has come to the evildoers, and honestly, they're not even around anymore to fight off. They're completely cut down, cursed at the root, and literally pulled up, never to bear any fruit again. And they know it. They're scared, and that's why the mainstream media is just perpetrating a narrative of fear. Is because the only way they can create what they've planned on is that they get the people to do it themselves. The people have to do it themselves, to themselves, and that's what they're perpetrating with this narrative. Without that narrative, nobody would buy it. If it wasn't for that narrative, nobody would be participating in this farce. It's because people have been so trained to be programmed. And of course, we went to school for a dozen years where if you didn't answer the answer that you were supposed to, you got it wrong. You weren't allowed to question the curriculum. You weren't even allowed to think outside the box. You just do what you're told, answer the test properly, and then you get your recess. You get to go home for the day. You get your summer vacation. Otherwise, you got to go for summer school, man. And that itself was invented as a form of torture. So just be aware that the people that have created this system know exactly what they're doing. I always wondered, like, during my younger years, when I was still in school, I always questioned, like, we're learning all this stuff that we're never going to use later on in life. Like, the education system is broken. Why don't we learn proper things? Like, even money management, right? Or how to love ourselves. Like, people go through the whole school system and then they get out with this inner hate. Like, what's the point of going to school then? But I realized later on that the education system is doing exactly what it's meant to do. That's where we get the word educate, which literally means to take out of. A meaning from, and ducare meaning to lead. So we're being led out of something. We're being led out of the natural way and into this box of mind programming. It's a very sinister system, and it's set up so insidiously that, parents are forced to put their children in the system. And if they're not, or they teach anything outside of the curriculum, or, any kind of challenges to that, the parents are then charged. This is the system that it's all set up to be. But right now we're waking up, and because we're crossing this threshold, not just by wishing, not just by hoping, but actually being the people who we've come here to be, being the change we want to see in the world, actually putting effort into those works that actually reflect the faith that we have within ourselves. That's why this transformational process is a done deal, because it's already sealed in the causal realm, and because we're actually working and acting on that intent, it's already a done deal. We've already started the momentum, and this momentum is only building. And once it reaches that threshold, check it out. Nurses, law enforcement, judges, they're all standing up. They'd rather lose their jobs than succumb to this system of tyranny. That itself should tell you all you need to know. So welcome, 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 my friends, to Earth 2.0. This is literally like nothing we've ever experienced before, because it's all been suppressed by this one organization that I'm exposing and just showing you like how they've run everything and why they've run everything and why they've infiltrated literally every aspect of society, every nation on the world, every culture, everything that came out of the colonial movement or whatever you want to call it. All of that stuff orchestrated by one group that sent its own tentacles out from Italy, from Spain, from France, from England. They were all operating on the directives of the one guy in charge.
Evil. Fight the real enemy.
You know what? And it's not even him, because he's the puppet that's in the limelight. There's a hidden hand that controls him, and the guy that controls him is the one wearing black. So it's that order that we're coming against. It's that order that's already been decimated in the causal realm. See, yeah, they stand as vicars of Christ. They stand in the seat of Christ and literally say that they are Christ incarnate. But they are Antichrist. Everything that their agenda is, even their religion, it's Babylonian religion. It's not the religion of Jesus. And now that that's exposed, we come at it with the real authority of Christ. And in that name, all powers are subject under the body of Christ's feet, from that third heaven seat of authority. And because it's been broken in the causal realm, this whole organization, everything they've planned, yes, they have their internment camps set up. They have their program for mass sterilization all underway. But guess what? It's not going to profit any, because the technology that they've suppressed is going to be released like a flood. And it's literally going to wipe them out. The oracles of Ishayahu even say this. When the enemy comes against you like a flood, the Spirit of Yahweh will lift up a standard against him. And that standard is us. We are the advancing army for the kingdom of heaven, and we are literally shining the light. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to take it down. It's the light in me that just causes me and propels me into action. And from that action, all of a sudden I realize I'm connecting with those kind of people that we can influence the world in our own little community, in our own little aspect of the bigger picture. And then I'm connecting with other media that is actually showing me court cases going on behind the scenes. Other people like nurses and doctors are collaborating and making their own big announcements. You know, they've had to walk away from the institution, and now guess what? We've separated the sheep from the goats. Or rather, the light of source has separated the sheep from the goats, and the goats just bought the narrative. You know, they're playing along. They're rolling over and playing dead. Not just metaphorically. And that kind of is sad, but you know what? We've got to cut out those old ties, what wasn't working, and we got to realize, hey, we've got a high vibe tribe right here with us, standing here, and we are the ones to actually bring a new world together, because we're actually going to be living in a fairy tale world. We're actually going to be living in a world so beyond what we've been programmed, and our egos, the brains that have been receiving the information through our five senses in our whole lifetime, we can't compare what's coming with what we've learned so far. The brain cannot comprehend what it doesn't know. And what it's coming is a potential that transcends anything that came before. And that's why I'm saying the technology that's about to be released is going to backfire on these people. Even the people that have been injured, even the genetic screwing around that people have experienced as a result of these mandates, all of that stuff that they've bought into and played along with, in some by coercion, others, you know, because they thought it was the best for society, others because they didn't even know anything different. They just went along with the flow. But all of those people, they're not going to be lost either. Somehow, what's coming is going to be so grand that it's actually going to redeem all of that nonsense and all of that corruption and all of that destruction that was unleashed on humanity. It's going to be reversed and actually going to be paid back sevenfold. We're talking exponential here. Sevenfold, guys, doesn't mean 7 times. Sevenfold means, you know, when you take a paper and you fold it over 7 times over, that's like 128 times. That's how much the enemy has to pay when he's caught. Because nobody despises a thief if he's stealing to feed his own stomach. Yeah, he stole. He's still guilty, but he's doing it to feed his stomach. Okay, but these guys, man, they're not doing it to feed their own stomach. Literally, if you worked for $5,000 every day since the day that Columbus landed in the Americas, and you worked every day for $5,000 since that day to the day you're watching this, you wouldn't have as much money as Jeff Bezos does. In fact, you wouldn't even make as much money as he does. You wouldn't even be close. You wouldn't even have as much money as he makes in a week. And that's the point. Nobody works for $1 billion. And that's the rift in society that they've created to keep us on one level and not realize our true potential as sovereign, manifesting, divine vessels of I am. Man, I'm getting excited, but these are exciting times, guys. When you see the pressure being applied, just know that that's not for you. You don't have to be scared. The only guys that deserve to be afraid because of what's coming to them, and quite frankly, they are crapping their pants, are the piececitos. And that's a term, of course, you know, I'm saying that in love, but honestly, they've really been POSs to the rest of us for not just our lifetimes, not just for this century, you know, since the First World War, for generations, for centuries, for millennia. You know, we trace it back to the Spanish Inquisition and all of that stuff, but this goes way back to the beginning, to the foundation of Mystery Babylon religion, to Nimrod building the tower, because that was the original portal where he's trying to access the transcendent dimensions and pull in beings that would manipulate society, manipulate genetics. He was the first Gibborim. When you break down the verse that actually talks about him, you know, in English it says Nimrod began to be a mighty hunter before the Lord. That is so misleading in its translation. It actually in Hebrew says he began to be a Gibborim. Gibborim literally means like strong ones. And as it's being used in context with applying to him, he became the strong one, like the first genetically modified human. And he did that all in the face of Yahweh, in defiance literally of the divine cycle of justice, that what you put out is what you get back. And that's why the tower never finished building. And that's why all the languages were confused, because at that time it was so perverted. The value of humanity or the value of life totally took the back burner. It took so long, it said, to bring a brick from the bottom to the top, almost like a year. And if a brick fell, they wept. They were absolutely decimated. But if a man fell, well, you know what? That's replaceable. That's how twisted society had become. And we're kind of seeing that now in our present day. But honestly, this is shifting to a point where all of that kind of control and suppression, it can't exist with the divine light shining through in Earth 2.0. Really amazing time, guys. Really amazing times. I'm so pumped to be alive, if you can tell. Because honestly, like just the downloads that I'm receiving and just the stuff that I want to expose, you know, and not expose in a bad way. I really want to dig to the foundation of it and understand, you know, what's been hidden from us. What is our real power that lies in the Hebrew scriptures, in the Greek scriptures, in the Arabic scriptures, all of them put together. You realize that there's a much bigger perspective, and it's not Chrislam.
Kiflam, brother.
That's the Antichrist's lame attempt to grasp at whatever power they have left before this veil is absolutely pulled back. You know, and it's not a coincidence that I'm part of this whole expose. I'm talking about it on these videos. I'm learning more than I've ever learned before, because honestly, this information is literally coming to me. I don't have to dig it up and really dig deep like I used to before. It's literally being presented to me on a daily basis, and it's up to me whether to read it or not. But it's literally a new era. It's a new way that information is flowing and being circulated and being assimilated and, you know, put into practice by me and by those of us that are actually doing this. So we're actually already there. We're already there. The very fact that you've watched this video up until this point means you're already on board. You're already manifesting this life for yourself. So don't feel bad because, you know, certain things are happening and you're hearing about other people suffering, or all of that is part of the unfolding. And yeah, we sympathize with them. We're not going to say, you know, that's trivial and, you know, other people's lives are, you know, of no effect. Of course they are. They've all come here to fulfill their own destiny, but it's up to each individual whether they actually realize that or not. I can't pay for your mistakes, and likewise you can't pay for mine. I can't convince you of things that you're unwilling to look at, and likewise you can't learn something that I'm not willing to teach you, or you can't teach me something that I'm not willing to learn. So we all have our own purposes, and we're all here for our own individual reasons. And you know what? My journey has led me to learn all of this kind of stuff. I never thought I'd be sharing it. You know, back in the day, 2012, even before 2012, I've always had like an inquisitive mind. But I've always been looking at it for myself because I wanted to know things, what they really mean, how to really apply them, and just what is the nature of reality. That's why I got into manifesting, because I was like, I'm going to hack this physical reality and learn just what it's all about. And I learned a bit more. And then I learned about the nature of, you know, different plants, different crystals, the real languages that actually comprise the ancient scriptures, and then realizing that, hey, some of these interpretations, man, they're lacking. And even the doctrine that goes back to some of those ancient languages, they're not even looking at the full thing. They're not understanding the full thing in context. And when we do, we realize that, you know, Christ came to teach us that we are divine as he is divine. Like, we are that breath of Elohim manifested in these physical clay suits. And because of that, we can literally manifest in this physical world whatever Elohim speaks, that living word that goes forth is actually the catalyst that creates the physical reality. And we, being formed out of the earth with the divine breath in us, we are literally the earth itself made alive. And not to say that the actual earth isn't alive, because, you know, there's tides, the same parallels of blood and lymph and pus and all of that stuff in the earth. For example, you know, water and crude oil and magma. The earth, of course, is an organism, a macroorganism, and we being part of that macroorganism just got to fit back into nature and leave off these institutions that have just defined us as incompetence, lost at sea. We are not lost at sea, we are sovereign, and we realize that we are divine souls. And by being divine souls, we are the I am. I am, you are I am. We all are that isness made manifest and experiencing a physical experience of life. That's what this life is all about. And we're not subject to that experience, but we are the creators of that experience. But if we're programmed with certain paradigms, those paradigms are just all that manifests. So we have to break out of that ego, tap into source, allow the living logos to flow into us to bring these new potentials to light and to life within us. And from there, we manifest from that data bank of quantum possibilities. I really am not exaggerating. All of this stuff is beyond that which we've already perceived, because it's being downloaded from a source that is way grander than our egos ever were programmed with. But we can tap into that and literally access potentials like never before. But my dinner is pretty much ready. I'm gonna sign off here in a bit. I know this episode was a bit short, a lot of talking, but I really wanted to just share that, because honestly, without having this kind of encouragement, it's easy to be discouraged with the way, you know, mainstream is going. A lot of our friends are no longer friends. In fact, they've turned against us. But we just got to get that thicker skin, because what's coming, we are literally going to step into a phase of ruling and reigning as kings and priests. We weren't kings and priests before. I mean, of course, spiritually, of course, we always were, but we weren't acting like it. We weren't trained to be kings and priests. So this is like our schooling. We're going through an intensive program right now, and this is literally going to be our crowning moment. And isn't it ironic that the Latin word for crown is corona? It's symbolism that is going to be their downfall. The same way like Biden's slogan was build back better. So there you have 3 B's, but if you write lowercase b like a number, what do you get? You get the number 6. And of course, you had to text 30330 for his campaign. And when you divide 2020 by 666, you get that number. And wasn't it just the other day he says, I don't care if it's done in 6 years, 6 months, or 6 weeks. He's like, we're going to get it done.
It doesn't matter whether it's in 6 minutes, 6 days, or 6 weeks. We're going to get it done.
Why is it so challenging?
They're not even trying to hide. And isn't it ironic that the left is just exposing itself more and more as Satanism? It's so crazy just what the left used to be, anti-establishment and love and peace, and now it's do what you're told. Yay to the CDC. You know, it's so ironic, but when you know how to dig past all of that and really understand where the cause is coming from for all this Luciferian agenda, it's no surprise. It's no surprise. So we are on the right side of history. We are light, we are love, we are awake, and we are tapping in with Source. We are allowing Source to direct our lives forward. And because of that, that potential is just flowing, overflowing through our lives into the world around us, into our own experience. And no matter what pressure is put on us, it's only creating those diamonds so that we can literally shine and be that fiery light, the fire of the living logos and the spirit of Elohim, the Ruach Elohim, in our lives and in the lives of those around us. So just be more of who you've come here to be. You know, like I'm an artist. I do a lot of art. You don't have to do art. And on top of that, the information that I've gotten, I'm sharing with you guys, I'm learning how to be a teacher. I'm learning how to put all of that information into words and deliver it coherently in these little shows. And at first, the shows were all just random topics thrown together, and I'm slowly learning how to, you know, make the topics more related, plan these kind of exposés, and really get into the real meat of the issue. And when I say meat, I mean vegan meat. But that aside, like really, no matter what your message is, just act on it, you know, even if it's like one person. That's what's kept me going all this time, you know, because, you know, sometimes people don't appreciate my message. That's true, but it doesn't get me down because there's always even one person that says, wow, thank you, brother, that really made sense. Or, you know, even that thumbs up. Or just that simple comment like, love and light, brother. Joel, you're such a tonic. All of those things, like, I take to heart, and it really propels me forward. And honestly, after a little bit of developing some tough skin, when I see a thumbs down on my video, I know I'm on the right page, because the kingdom of darkness doesn't care if you're agreeing with it the whole way. But once you stir up those ashes, you're going to get some resistance. And that's when I know that I've hit a nerve and I'm really making advances into a terra incognita. So be bold, you know, like Pastor Art says, we're born to be lions. We're born to be eagles.
Be eagles. Be lions. Or lionesses.
And it's that spirit of boldness that empowers us to actually go out and make a change. Otherwise, you know, we're just sitting alone, reclusive in our little den or whatever, just waiting for the world to change. Well, in order to be the change that we want to see in the world, we have to get out there and act. So right now, over all of you, I just decree boldness. I call down the absolute fire of Elohim upon all of you to ignite the passion within you and literally cause you to be the fullest potential of who you've come here to be. Not just shadows, not just fractions of it, not just, oh, you know, I think I'm an artist, I'm going to paint on the weekends. No, full-time agents in place for the kingdom of heaven, manifesting the utopia that we've known we've come here to deserve, and nothing less. Nothing less than that, fam, because we're all in this together. We're a high vibe tribe, an army of warriors, proclaiming the light in the middle of the darkness, because when we do that, the darkness has to flee. There's no point, you know, going to the brightest lit room and being all, I love the light, man. That doesn't even matter. But when you go into the darkness, yeah, you're going to get some thumbs down. You're going to get some negative responses. But that's when you know you've hit a nerve. And if you just tap in and say, you know, am I doing the right thing? Don't look to them to tell you whether you're doing the right thing. Look inside, and that will convict you, and you'll know. You'll know. And that's why this fire within me is just continuing. You know, if I told you what happened to me earlier on this year, like, it would be completely unbelievable. Like, I almost lost my life, but they attacked me with witchcraft. They attacked me with really all these things in the spiritual realm. But man, I got the blood of Christ. And when I enforced that against them, literally I came up 10 levels higher than I was before. And that's why this fire is just burning and burning. And like it says in the Hebrew Proverbs, it says one of the things that is never satiated is a fire. And we are that fire. We are that force that, like it says in the oracles of Joel, the land is like a garden of Eden before us, but behind us a desolate wilderness. The flame burns everything in its path, and we are those that run on the city. We rush on the wall. The great is the army that carries out his word. Well, who is he? That's Yahweh. And Yahweh's word is, like I said, that which goes forth and impregnates the spirit of Elohim and literally creates manifest reality. That is the living logos, which through him all things were made, and without him was not anything made. So here I am having a cup of tea before I get to my dinner. It's actually kind of getting late. It's already getting dark, and it's not even 8 o'clock, which, you know, we've already crossed the horizon of the autumnal equinox. And I'm going to be getting into a bit more work, diving deep into the nature of that calendar that Source downloaded to me, and how, you know, all these institutionalized calendars, like, of course, the Gregorian calendar, but even the traditional rabbinical calendar, it's off from the actual Enochian calendar. And I'm going to be getting more into that in the future episodes. But, you know, these are all different aspects of what I have to teach and the knowledge that I've come across. And, you know, there's a whole lot more that really I can't really share on YouTube, but I am working on getting stuff set up on Rumble. I just don't want to leave YouTube, you know, because all my stuff is on there / here, depending on where you're watching this video. But it's already set up, and I'm like, you know what? I can't lose this. I can't leave this out, because honestly, it's just so powerful the momentum that we're moving forward. So just be that fire, you know, be eagles. All of us, be those lions. And we can literally take down these hyenas and eat them for breakfast. Because that's who we're here to be. We're not here to be manipulated. We're not here to be controlled, coerced, bound in fear, programmed with these paradigms of finiteness and physicality. We transcend physicality. We are supernatural beings. We are manifesting our best life, not just for us, man, but for the whole macrocosm, for this ecosystem of Earth. And we are literally downloading the kingdom of heaven into this earth in this time. So do your part, because it's all up to each of us. We all have that own individual piece of the puzzle that only we can fulfill. So be those lions, be those eagles. So take hold of your prey. And like I said, we will really eat these hyenas for breakfast. So I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. My love goes out to you, and I send peace, blessings, shalom over all of you. Absolute wholeness, not just in your body, not just in your soul, not just in your spirit, not just in your heart, not just in your strength, in your whole being. All of the aspects of who you are brought into complete and total alignment, where there's nothing missing, nothing lacking, nothing broken. That is what I decree over you. And I decree this every night over all of my subscribers, because not only are you worth it, but you were born for such a time as this. And when we fulfill our destiny, we will literally live in our destiny. So I'll check you in another video. Joel signing out once again. Agape, salaam, namaste, hotep. And I understand language in terms of parse syntax, that when we're looking at translations and the all caps name, like, I get it. I get what Jehovah Witnesses, or, well, you know what? I get the idea that they're taking to build the idea of Jehovah. Mind you, I get what the neophytes are thinking when they get in. Because I've been, just not with Jehovah's Witness, but I've been there. I've experienced that same kind of mind control. But sincerity, it's born out of sincerity. And that's the same thing. Like, you know, well, pretty much every religion, man. But, like, I understand what Jehovah's Witnesses were thinking. Well, Charles Taze Russell, that's a whole other issue. But, of course, he was a Freemason. And well, we know the Freemasons are run by the Jesuits. And through the Jesuits, they run the world. Kept the world enslaved through the birth certificate. And they just try to control us, to feed us lies, because really, information is the only weapon. But you know, we're waking up. We're not asleep any longer. back to the Pope. We're talking about the real power here. Who's pulling the strings? Because the Pope is not born into a dynasty. So who is the seed that is mingled with the seed of man? Aha, that goes back to the ancient bloodlines. And the bloodlines that trace their way back to Venice. And in Venice, the city is built on the water. And in the water are 13 bloodlines. And they trace their way back to Phoenicia. And the war against Alexander the Great turned the Phoenicians to the Venetians. Well, not right away, but they did relocate to Venice. And in Venice, they founded everything that was already existent before that. But they do have a large amount of control over the world, and they claim this bloodlines. They go back through Solomon to the bloodline of Jehuda, or Yehuda, or Judah, or Judah. Sorry, guys, my Hebrew. I read the text in Hebrew before I read them in English. So I always remember the Hebrew pronunciations. All right? So, we'll be back right after these messages. And there you have it, folks. We are back with another live session. And today on the Joel Fernandes Show, I'm your host, Joel Fernandes. And today on the show, we are having quite a bit of fun, actually. Talking about when the Jews are in Israel. I'm talking the Jews are in Israel. Messiah comes. Messiah comes. They don't want to be in the way, but they want to be the Messiah. But they don't really realize that one day he'll come back and they'll be in the way of perfection. Just know it, guys. Just know it. They're in the way of perfection. We'll have 1,000 years of perfection. So, with that being said, we gotta know that this probably is not going to be in our lifetime. Not talking about the 1,000 years of perfection. But we already see perfection, and that's what we are moving towards. It's fast approaching. Like, as an age of perfection, that's what we're entering into, but there will be phases of entrance. There will be phases. There will be phases entering into the new paradigm. People will adopt. People will adapt. And they will decide how to live best they can with the circumstances they have in the new awareness that they have. We can't be pessimistic. We can't allow, just because the evil is out there. It's out there waking people up, man. People are being woken up left and right. Honestly, we're being woken up left and right. Do you think the enemy has control when we know about it? This is all a Saturnian ring, and the veil of Saturn has been pulled back. This is what I'm talking about. It's a Saturnian ring that operates on the manipulation of the physical density of language and law. But the thing is that with the veil pulled back, right, we can see with beyond the senses of the seven heavens. And the seventh heaven is Saturn, which governs, logic, not so much intellect, but the real deep reasoning and, principles of cyclical justice. Also, that's analogous to Yahweh. But that isn't Yahweh in Yahweh's definition, but that's analogous to, which is why the Jewish community wears black. It's all layered on top of itself, like the Hasidic and a lot of Orthodox Jews. Why they wear black? It's like, of course, they tell the neophytes it's because we're in exile, and that's the state of God's relationship with us right now. So they wear that as a sign of mourning for Mother Jerusalem. But at the same time, like, they actually keep the 7-day Sabbath, which is the Sabbath of Yahweh. That is what it is. And for those that didn't catch that, Yahweh is, like I said, representative of the Saturnian idea of cyclical justice. And that's also isness. But isness is not the state of being that's associated with Saturn. Saturn is below that, because Saturn itself is a manifested being, or state of being, or state of awareness, a domain of physicality. All of the seven heavens are domains of physicality, or have control over the physical domains of society. But when we transcend the physical domains of those seven, whatever you want to call them, then we break through the firmament, because the firmament is this, and we enter the stellar mobile, or the stars. When we talk about the stars, we're actually like looking up and seeing past the seven heavens and into the realm of the probability source field. And all of these stars could represent probabilities. Like, you don't see that many in the city. You don't even see that much in the country when you go out there for some reason. But stars, man, there's a lot of stars, and I seen them when we went to India, man. It was amazing just looking up, and it's like, yeah, I can get it why they call it the Milky Way, but in the cities you can't see it that way. It's crazy. But anyway, I digress. When we hit the stellar mobile, we actually see things from that higher, outside of the seventh firmament or seventh heaven in the firmament dimension. And stars and all have a whole other meaning in relationship to the earth and what they've told us and what they've made us mock all our lives. But the whole point of this is we have to understand that when we break out of this awareness of the illusion of the media, when it's just media, it's not Saturnian. But when it's being used to manipulate psychology, and especially mass psychology, then it's definitely Saturnian. And we're talking a very deep kind of intrinsic value that is placed on physicality that we all hold dear. But we have to realize that physical reality is subject to our state of being. That's not to say our state of being will shift physical reality like that. But what I'm saying is that physical reality's state of being is a mirror of your state of being. It's a mirror of your state of being. And whatever's unfolding is a mirror of your state of being. And there's things that we're born with that we can't control. There's trends and things that we learn that we can't control. All of that we can't control. But what is the real nature of reality? Here, check this out. The real nature of reality means that we're in control. And with that being said, I want to go to a break.
We have confidence in the victory of good over evil. Fight the real enemy.